Hi, this is Josh Belk with the Belk on Business podcast. Thank you for taking a few moments to listen in today. On today's podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about the intersection of the business and the personal side of our lives. And I'm sure probably through the years you've heard this line or maybe even used it yourself, that this isn't personal, this is just business. But I think probably all of us realize, especially if we're entrepreneurs, that there really is a lot of what happens in our personal life really does affect our business life and how well and how effective we are in showing up and performing in the workplace. I'm sure probably all of us have shown up for work at some point or another, maybe not feeling well, or maybe had an argument at home, and we end up bringing that into the office, and we just aren't there in a way that we really should be for our team and for our employees, and maybe even to a certain extent those that we work with outside of the business as it relates to vendors or contractors. So our personal life really does affect our business life, and to be effective in using our business to make a personal impact, one must manage their personal life in order to be able to be effective on the business side of things. I heard this line a couple months ago, and I really liked it, that there is no such thing as work-life balance. Sometimes you hear this line, we're really striving, and you really should strive to have work-life balance. I don't think that's truly the case at all. And the line that was used in this podcast is you should really strive to have work-life fluidity. Of course, right now I'm sitting in my conference room instead of my office today recording this, and I'll be heading out of town here shortly, and going to go ahead and record next week's podcast, and we'll do it and send it out while I'm out of town. But as I kind of sit in here, I know that I'm sitting in this conference room, and there's not much in the way of personal life that's going on right now. I'm really focused on this podcast, focused on business. The only kind of aspect of my personal life that's in this room happens to be my son, who's sitting on the other side of this camera by his laptop and producing this thing. And so there really isn't much of an aspect of my personal life. Now, once I step out of here and I head out here in a few minutes, that's when my personal life comes into play. But I really want those two sides of my life to be fluid. But there are many times throughout my day that that my personal life does intersect and interact with my business life. And we think of kind of different areas of our personal life that really does impact our business life. And if we aren't getting adequate sleep, for example, if we're not sleeping as much, we're not getting the adequate amount of rest that we need, we're going to come into the office. We may be a little bit cranky. We're not going to be able to show up as a leader in our business like we really should. If we're not eating right, if we're not exercising, if we don't have healthy and happy relationships. Every single one of those areas, if we're not managing those well, our business life is really going to suffer. And I think it's going to suffer one way primarily, and that's going to be in the culture of our businesses. We can show up in front of clients and we can fool them for a few minutes. We can work with our contractors, with our vendor for a few minutes while we're on the phone, maybe while they're in our conference room, having those interactions, and we can really kind of fake it through those meetings. But you know what? The team members that we're working with, our employees, those that we lean upon to try to help to get the work done, to be effective in business, to make an impact, and they really kind of lean on us, they're going to see us at our best and at our worst. And if we're constantly showing up in our businesses and not having an adequate amount of sleep, if we're not eating properly, we're not exercising, we're not taking care of ourselves, we aren't really tending to our personal relationships outside of the office environment. If we aren't maintaining those and operating well in those areas, guess what? The relationships we have inside of our business is going to suffer. Our business culture is going to kind of really just stink. Okay, we're going to show up. We're going to be crabby. We're not going to be investing into our team like we should. And so if we are going to show up and be the men and women that we should be in our businesses, we really need to make sure that we're tending to these areas. If we're going to have a good culture in our business, to be effective in impacting employees, clients, and even vendors, the extent of our ability to coach them on how to practically use the skills we develop will determine the extent of our impact. And so as we kind of take in the next step, I know that in my primary business, I provide a professional service. And so I'm working with clients, especially in the area of their numbers, kind of dealing with the finances in their business, with their taxes. We do work a little bit with the organizational structure, and many times their personal lives will spill into this dialogue. And so we end up having this conversation, and we end up finding out that, there are certain aspects of their personal life that's really impacting their business in a negative or in a positive way. And so many times through that particular dialogue, we'll end up having to address those. One of the taglines that sometimes we as accountants receive is that of most trusted advisor. And that kind of goes beyond just because we're able to see what's going on inside of a business as it relates to the numbers side. But many times the personal side of things end up coming into the relationships. And we end up finding out that the reason why the individual may be ineffective in his or her business stems from something on the personal end. And so sometimes we'll end up digging into that. And so we'll end up having to develop skill sets or maybe certain disciplines that they can take and be able to use. And you know what? If we're able to learn those ourselves, be able to educate our clients on how to effectively use some skill sets, and maybe it does have to do with diet or exercise or relationship building. And I think maybe that area especially, we really can kind of help our clients reach the next level. You know what? That really also can build a bond between us and the client. It really can help build a bond between you and the client as well. Understanding we're not just kind of work through the business side as well, but we're also there to help you in other areas if the need so arises. So if we're going to be effective in impacting, and I'm not just talking about making money, most anyone can go out there and figure out a way to make money. But if we're really going to make an impact with our clients, we need to be able to make sure that we're managing that side of the personal side of our life well, and also be able to help them as well when the need so arises. So to be able to develop those skill sets personally, so we can effectively make an impact on the people that we do kind of get up every morning to really kind of get out there and help to serve them as well. Many of our business problems do stem from the personal. And as an accountant, sometimes we have the ability to really kind of peek into the personal lives of people, and many times we can find that out through their checkbook. I was on a podcast a month or two ago, and actually played a portion of it on this podcast platform. And the gentleman that I was talking with on the podcast had mentioned had asked a question, and I told them, you know what, if we were able to take a certain period of and I said 30 days of your bank activity, I can tell a lot about you. And so if on the personal level, for example, if there's an addiction, if there's a gambling problem, if there's something going on there, and that's going to show up in the personal finance side. And guess what? That is going to spill into your business. If there's some sort of an addiction, if there's a gambling issue, if there's some sort of a relationship issue there, the problems with a child, it can come from a lot of different areas, but you're going to carry that baggage into your business world. So you want to the best that you can, be able to manage what's going on the personal side of business, so the business side can be as effective as it can be, and you can make the impact that you want to make. I had jotted down this line here a couple months ago, and I kind of really like this line. I've used it a few times. It said, the degree that you are willing to make an impact in the lives of others is the degree which we are willing to make ourselves uncomfortable. It's not always going to be easy to come into the office and show up to be the person that you want to be. We're going to sometimes have to step out of our comfort zone. And if we're going to make an impact on both a business and a personal end, we have to be willing to step out of our comfort zone. Whether we're going out and we're at a marketing event or a networking event, we have to step out and be uncomfortable. And to be the leader that we want to be and that we need to be to make an impact, we have to be willing to step out of our comfort zone to make an impact. And we have to have an understanding that what goes on in the personal is going to affect the business. What's going on in the personal lives of your employees will determine how effectively they show up in the workplace. That's why I think it's extremely important that we as leaders in our business also are there for the people that work with us to be able to also help them on the personal side if so needed. And then lastly, my last point here is consider hiring a coach or coaches that really do have a holistic approach to help you as the entrepreneur. One of the best things that I ever did about a year ago was hire a coach. I'd been in masterminds, I'd had different mentors and different people that have kind of helped me through the years. But the best thing I did was to hire a coach. It wasn't just a fitness coach or just a life coach or just a business coach, but someone. And of course, it is costly, but to find a coach who can come in and understand that interaction. And he's really been able to come along and really kind of take a look at what's going on the personal end, what's going on the health end, and also what's going on the business end, and really drill down and nail what are those pain points that need to be addressed. And sometimes it is on the business side. Many times it's on the personal side. We end up finding out if we dig into issues into our business, that most of the time the issue falls right on me as the business owner and something going on that needs to be addressed. And most of the time it's something personal. It may be a weakness in my leadership style. It might be an issue that's going on at home. It might be me not taking care of myself. And maybe I'm not eating the right things and not doing the things that I need to do to show up to be effective. So just a few thoughts on that interaction between the business and the personal. Hopefully this particular podcast brought you value. If you haven't already, please consider leaving us a review. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Once again, this is Josh Belk with the Belk on Business Podcast. Have a wonderful day.